thing I was going to do. So I was going to get that link to your online experience and see if I can put it in show notes. Where are the show notes? By the way, how's my sound? I didn't ask that.
Pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
No, it sounds really good. Clear, deep, profound.
Yeah. Insightful, interesting, intelligent. Oh, all of those things you're supposed to be when you're in this line of work.
I know. That's why you invited me.
He's very echoey.
Maybe through his sound and yours.
I might have to put on some headphones. He's very echoey, but I'm not.
Here, tell him to say something.
Okay, can you say some stuff, Matza?
I'm going to change the setup of the mic, see if it does something.
Okay.
How's that? Is it better?
Just a sec.
The other day I was on the bus, and the bus was going in a direction I didn't know where it was going. It was very confusing. And I was sitting in the bus, not knowing where I was going. Yes, the bus was going.
All right. Hold on. I might have to put on some ears.
So it's listening this way.
You know?
Now it's listening all around. The way these work, you don't have to point it because it's listening like.
Okay.
We just changed one of the Yeti settings, so now we're talking to see if you still experience the same thing. Does it work like this a little bit differently? Hello, hello. This is us talking. Test, test, test.
Remember how you discovered it was coming through eCam with Mariah? It's the same thing that was happening with Mariah.
All right.
It's
Well,
also okay if you just go ahead and do it.
It sounds fine on our end, by the way,
okay.
but probably not listening. Free of a cue to you are.
Let me do this. I'm going to try one more thing. We have 1 minute to go. Output. How about external headphones? Huh. Well, we might roll with this because it's not coming through my headphones. Interesting. Back to you, Cam. All right, say something.
Bonjour, je m'appelle François, je suis né à Paris, j'ai 57 ans, je suis marié, divorcé, remarié, j'ai 5 enfants.
All right, that worked for me. Say some more stuff.
So the echo is gone, but now there's like a little like.
Which is worse?
The echo's gone, but now there's another sound.
The echo's still on?
No, the echo is
The echo's,
better,
okay,
but there's another. Oh, which is worse.
which is worse?
I'm gonna tell him.
Will you say some more stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I had a problem with my hips the other day and I had to call a friend to fix me. And he messed me so badly that then I had to crawl to bed. Would that work?
That's good. We're gonna get the call. This is better? Okay. I'm wearing the headphones. And we are live. In fact, we've been live for a few minutes now, so let me just switch the screen, take that off of there. And lost you there, bring you back. Add that guy. Add that guy. And add that guy. And here we are. Okay, I think common decency and California state law require that I say hello and welcome to The Evolutionary. My name is David Knox. I'm still your host, and I'm very excited and honored to be here with François Demange. François, I forgot to ask you before the show, because I normally refer to you as Metza. Is it François or Françoise?
If it was Françoise, I was a girl, but
Okay.
those days gender is very confused. But I still go by François.
Okay, so okay. Let me know if that changes. I can switch up. I'm
Yeah,
also
I'll let you know when I'm in transition. Thank
also
you.
all your pronouns. Just let me know, and we'll just do
Okay.
whatever you need. Okay, good. Thanks for being here. It's really great to have you.
I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, David, for having me.
Cool. All right. So normally, what I do is I start the show with a segment that we call Good News and Fresh Perspectives. And I was gonna actually, let me back up one moment. I want to read your bio first, just so we have an idea of what's going on the other side of the screen, the split screen that we have here. All right, here we go. Francois
You
is
got
an
it.
internationally known healer who specializes in traditional Amazonian lineages. He trained in the Peruvian Amazon for 15 years under the guidance of the Quechua Lamista, Awarunas, and Shipibo indigenous peoples. Please let me know if I slaughter any of these pronunciations. He has since been in practice leading ayahuasca retreats and plant medicine rituals in South America and building awareness for communities from the US, Europe, and Canada for more than 10 years. He comes as the most highly recommended practitioner by many accredited scholars in the field of psychedelic study and by many leaders and organizations dedicated to research in these fields. Francois is a Reiki master healer and a sun dancer in the Dakota Teepee Nation of Canada. And as if that wasn't enough, he's also initiated in the Bwiti healing art and ceremonies of the Iboga tradition in Gabon by Maman Bernadette Riboneau. Hopefully I got that right. And he is also part of the Native American Church of the Dene Nation. He brings these lineages and practices together in ceremony to provide a powerful healing transmission and awaken our Western culture into a collective consciousness resonance rooted in everyday life reality. And Francois and his wife Kelly also started the Sacred Ways Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the resilience of indigenous medicine traditions all over the world by providing direct funding to indigenous medicine families. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. It does sound good. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive resume. So what I was saying before is I normally start the show with a segment I call Good News and Fresh Perspectives, and that's where me and my guests each share reasons that we have come across for optimism regarding the trajectory of humanity. And it could be some invention, it could be some more philosophically based new way of looking or different or fresh way of looking at the world, reframing it in a way that is different from our normal prescribed worldview. But in this case, I was originally going to completely forego that because I feel like our entire conversation is kind of be a fresh perspective and probably full of optimism for humanity. But I did come across something that I do want to share that is going to be that is just so juicy that I just wanted to pop it on and give it 1 second here in this show. And it's actually an invention. And it was 2011. I saw a YouTube video by it was a TED Talk by a guy named Dr. Anthony Holland. He's a professor of music, and he teamed with someone either in biology or physics. He decided that if you could break a wine glass with sound, that you could pop a cell with sound. So they got together and they started figuring out how to pop cells with sound, kill cells with sound. When the idea was to kill a cancer cell. And through an amazing journey, they figured out how to do this with, and they popped their first cancer cell, and they had it on screen. This is 2011. This is 13 years ago. And so they started figuring out that each type of cancer cell has its own frequency that will pop it, but it leaves all of the healthy tissue around it completely intact. And so they figured this out in 2011, and I've been sitting there waiting patiently for this to come out, and lo and behold, a couple of days ago, I found some articles starting to pop up on the major news media outlets, and it came across my feeds in one of the social medias that they have indeed figured this out, created a machine, and there's a hospital in Southern California that's going to start using this right now. And I'll give some more detail on that in the next show, but I just wanted to pop that in there. And I thought that this story was apropos because firstly, you're a healer, and it's my impression and experience that you're the type of healer that deals not only with the vibration of sound on a very profound level through the songs that you sing in ceremony, but also perhaps the more subtle vibration of the field itself, meaning like the quantum field, the 0 point field, or maybe we could even say nature or source. And so I'm going to ask to get your thoughts on those in a few moments. But I think it probably makes sense, François, to start with your story. And I'd like to go back, if you wouldn't mind, and maybe go all the way back to Colombia, and maybe even talk about how you came to Colombia, how you came to be there, because you're French, right? You're born and raised in France, I assume. And bring us up through your deep exploration of addiction in Colombia, that you referenced a death experience, and then your 15 years in the Amazon or so. And then, I want to talk about your transition from being an apprentice and all of the training that you did to a practitioner. I'm interested in how you became involved with the Dakota people. And then I think in recent years, you've undergone yet another transition you've gone from practitioner to teacher and guide. And I think there's a distinction there. So anyway, if you want to go back and I'll come back and remind you where we are in this, but I think it makes sense to go back and start from the beginning.
Yeah, no, thank you for that acknowledgement of that machine. It's very exciting. And I'm already thinking about how to get exposed to the sound systems to be able to somehow incorporate that vibration in a ceremonial context and just try to use our human machine of sound making, inspiration, tapping into the consciousness of the field through the expansion of a psychedelic experience to be, in direct communication through vibration and sound, inspired by a machine to treat cancer. That would be quite something.
Yes.
But yes, I am François Demange. I'm very excited and honored to be here. Thank you again, David. I was born in Paris, France in 1968 and partially raised there and in the southwest of France. And I was very fortunate to have an open-minded family and well-resourced that made me travel the world quite a bit and gave me a few different perspectives on spirituality and religion and, a view of the world, who somehow made me very curious about other traditions. I also was a child that was very disturbed, I guess, by its environment and had a very hard time in living. And so, I couldn't really relate to my system of origin and feel at ease and be well in my skin. So I had to find a way to operate in this life and just become, negotiate with my stress level. And I guess that started with the use of psychedelics or substances that would calm me down. And marijuana, cannabis was the first substance that I came across at the age of 14 that actually helped me kind of be more open and calm and curious, but also right away give me an experience of sensory experience that somehow opened my curiosity into what is that I'm feeling and how is it real? Is there a system, a language that we can relate to what I'm experiencing through the effect of this plant, of the substance? And it led me to be in this quest, in this research somehow. And my first experience with psychedelic was actually in Indonesia with psilocybin in Bali, and I was 17. And I really felt I was in touch with the energy of the universe and the forces of life. And there was this whole language and breathing systems that existed that made sense, that somehow we could tap into as human beings.
And I was curious to see how all that made sense and how it could be applicable in the reality we live in. It felt that the environment and the society I grew up value system were really not including all those experiences and actually were judging them as dangerous and negative and irrelevant. But there was a lot of partying and there was a lot of alcohol and there was a lot of hard drugs and a lot of people that thought it was totally cool to actually do that. And it was what was available to me. And so I explored also that. And it has its toes and it has its complications, which eventually got me a little hooked up, And my journey with substance abuse, I guess, was not so much the substance abuse reality, but just more as a research, as someone who wanted to connect, expand, and was in this adventure. And eventually, got to be in touch with heroin actually in France, and was in this kind of floating atmosphere, studying, but discovering that reality of opiates, and got sick out of it, and had to deal with the sickness of having to kick it out, and it's a real journey in itself. And through adventures and opportunities and that desire to travel and explore, I end up meeting someone who was Colombian, and I moved to Colombia. And in Colombia, I kind of switched substances. Colombia is a country where there's an incredible opportunity to use cocaine because it's a provider of that. It's not only that, there's a lot of indigenous people and incredible healers. But somehow I got hooked up with that. And it was what took me to this ultimate journey where I found my top, or my bottom, because I went so far that I almost died. And I put myself in situations that were quite dangerous. But when I look at it today, I look at it as an experience of life more than really a struggle with addiction, where I had to go to rehab or all that. I eventually had to put myself in conditions of being looked after, but I never felt so, stuck or struggle. It was just what I did for a while, and I went all the way in, and it took me in a place where I was losing my mind. I ended up jumping out of a window at 5 in the morning. I don't even remember, and it's a miracle if I made it. And from that point, I never touched a needle ever in my life. So that was it. I saw the light, I came back, and I had this really close to death experience, and I realized that I wanted to live. And from there, I was just thinking about what am I going to do? What is it going to be meaningful for me to find a real mission? What is my purpose? And I had met a lot of different healers and practitioners. I was at the time 25 years old. And I was going to go to Colombia. No, I was going to go to Brazil because I had lived in Brazil, and Brazil was this extraordinary country who had provided this rhythm, this opportunities to travel, this incredible lifestyle with music, with rhythm, with also other type of spirituality. And right at that moment, a letter ended up in my hands, clearing my desk, that I somehow kept all those years, that maybe was given to me 3 or 4 years before, talking about ayahuasca and talking about a place in Peru that was working in a protocol for substance abuse, but also as an opportunity to apprentice, to dive in the traditional shamanism and plant medicine consciousness. And it was just at that crossing in my life where I had nothing left really to do, but just to dive in something meaningful. And I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. Study ayahuasca and become a practitioner in the heart of healing with ayahuasca and shamanism. And so without knowing, I basically dropped everything, packed a backpack, and took a bus down to Peru and stayed 15 years. Wow. And so I arrived down there and they said, well, maybe you should try first. You know, I showed up and said, oh, I'm going to become an ayahuasquero, you know, and they're like, yeah, right. You know, maybe, don't you want to have a ceremony and see how it goes? And, you know, I said, I'll do whatever. And there was a protocol in place of a 6 month commitment to be part of their, you know, treatment plan. And due to my active days in addiction or in substance abuse, I was like, sure, you know, I didn't come with that intention. I came with the intention of learning, but I will follow the guidelines. And I did the treatment. My second ceremony there was led by a man that is pretty well known in the United States today as a practitioner, Jose Campos, who was working on site at the time. And I had a really clear message and a connection in the reality of the world of ayahuasca that made me certain that I was in the right time, at the right place, and made the right choices. So, and then it's a matter of, you know, determination, opportunities, consistency. And today it's been 28 years that I'm actually in this road. And I spent 15 years in Peru, exposed to mestizo, multicultural Westerners approach in the use of ayahuasca, and then decide to go more native, following different indigenous teachers. In, like you mentioned, the Quechua-Lamista people, who are mostly the indigenous living in the area I was at the time, in the San Martin region of Peru. And then I met this incredible master in the field, Guillermo Arevalo, who's a Shipibo indigenous person, who's also very controversial because he's someone who, in his years of practice, has abused a lot of his position as a shaman. And I worked under his guidance for 10 years and become kind of his left-hand apprentice, and then had to just walk my own path due to the nature of the complexity of our relationship and inappropriate behaviors. And then I came back to the Quechua-Lamista, that now I am fully connected as a family with the lineage of Don Chujandama, Orlando Chujandama, who lives in a small village of Jucanayaco in the Huallaga River banks. And the Aguarunas are people that I know because I participate a lot in the ceremonies with the Bilkut, which is a particular medicine they use, a very strong psychoactive psychedelic plant that provides an incredible opening, but it's a very different medicine that is not very well known here and well used. And during that journey of those 28 years, I moved around in Peru and studied different lineages. I trained in the Reiki master, as a Reiki master, to also bridge and merge the energy practice in the context of ayahuasca with the songs and the healing art around plant medicine. And I went back to studies and did a master in anthropology to merge also with the academics in the field of ayahuasca and plant medicine. And then I started to get involved in different communities around North America and Canada, where I met different indigenous people. That's how I get connected with the Dakota Nation of Manitoba, that then invited me to come to their Sundance, Sweat Lodge ceremony, Uwipi, Uwampi ceremony. And after having clear information in ceremony and dreams, I followed the path of the Sundance, which I'm still doing today. It's been about 17 years that I'm Sundancing. Today I Sundance under the guidance of the Horse Looking family, actually, in the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. But I danced with Dakota Tipi Teoshpe for 12 years in Manitoba with Keith Pache Eagle Claw and his family. Keith is my brother, and Keith Horse Looking is also now my brother. So I made relation with those people. They took me in. I'm very honored to be part of that incredible, spiritual life and sharing their teachings and carrying their trust. And lately, I've been also very curious of other lineages and different communities, which led me to participate and be also included and become a member of the Native American Church and the use of the peyote as a sacrament, and learning more about their ways and how they engage with that medicine, with the rituals, and how it is used, and their capacity to connect. And same thing with the Mazatec and the psilocybin, and same thing with the Iboga in Gabon, which I only a very little exposure to. But at the end, it's all for me when I look back a language. It's a certain system of understanding how you can navigate with your mind, with your awareness and your discernment when you are in a space, in an outer space, under the influence of a consciousness, of a plant, of a psychedelic plant, that somehow enlarge your bandwidth, if we may say. So your capacity to have access to data is wider, is deeper, is stronger. And how do you navigate that, and how do you operate? How do you concentrate and orient yourself in that space? And what do you become aware of, and how you can concentrate and focus and go in certain directions? And when I discover this is really the wisdom that indigenous people have, it just become a real passion for me. To think that you can drink a drug, a plant like ayahuasca that altered your senses, and see a cancer in someone's body. We're talking about cancer. It's quite extraordinary just to think about that from a Western medical point of view. The capacity of the human brain.
Yeah, that's thank you for that survey of your history and how you came to this point. I'm looking at the time, and we're going to transition about 10 minutes or less over to the after party. I want you to bring us up to the present and talk a little bit about your course, Being and Becoming, and what it is and what incited you to make that offering.
So there's a few factors. One of the main factors is that I believe that being a human being today on this planet is an extraordinary gift. We're in this really incredible moment of the crossing and the merging of different traditions, a global kind of an awakening and awareness. And the West is turning itself back to inquire about different medicine, around different ritual. And we're just discovering, or about to discover, our real potential as human beings. Like this capacity that we have to engage with the life force around us, As Westerners, we have kind of objectified nature and dedicate cultivation of the ego and the high individuation of self, and separate ourselves and our truth and be able to be rooted in that awareness. But now we're coming back to this collective inquiry, to this, with a substance like psychedelics, like, wow, it's all connected, it's all one. And how do we operate in that system? And so that's really what I want to teach about, and how indigenous people have that capacity to do so, but they are rooted in a consciousness that is collective, and we're rooted in a consciousness that is individual. So there is a bridging there is a merging to do, and there's a system to discover how to interconnect those things. And so, because also in the psychedelic renaissance movement, there is very little that is done for indigenous people, I found myself an obligation to create a system of retribution, of support, of sponsoring, and bringing awareness into what's going on in their culture at source, and the need of the young generations to be able to keep this culture alive and to support elders and medicine families that are an extraordinary gift, and how to articulate that wisdom and be able to integrate that in a system and a value system, in a teaching system that can upgrade our mental health practitioners to fully embrace, integrate this kind of practices in how they're going to be operating in giving a space for the psychedelic systems to be resolving our issues in a Western society.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I feel like that's probably a gap as we move into the space where we're going to have a lot more acceptance of use of psychedelic compounds in a therapeutic medicinal sense. True and effective integration is something that is yet to be, I guess, defined. And so I think it's a super important thing. We're going to shift now. I'm going to do some housekeeping, and then we're going to jump over to the live stream where we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about sound and vibration. I think would be a wonderful thing to revisit. There's so much to talk about with respect to the explosion of or the popularity of psychedelic and specifically plant medicines in the Western culture, and the proliferation of people who want to call themselves ayahuasquero or practitioners of various kinds and want to administer, and there's obviously some issues there. It's a complicated thing. I think in general it's a good trend, but also the person who is interested in that, they're missing so much if they just think they want to drink something, right? How do you vet a practitioner? How do you find the right settings? How do you prepare your environment? How do you, and the wisdom context is what you've been talking about. If you don't have a wisdom context, how do you take that experience then and translate it into a different way of being? So we're going to get to all of that. I think there's some really juicy stuff to talk about in the after party. I just want to do some housekeeping before we jump over to the Zoom call. First of all, your support is what helps keep the evolutionary conversation going and growing. And your support, of course, comes in various different forms. Your time, attention, and energy, of course, is the most important thing. And sharing the evolutionary with your friends and family. Subscribe on YouTube, which is at the YouTube / at the Evolutionary Life. Is wonderfully helpful for us. And of course, the best thing that you can do is listen to the show and absorb some of the vibes and the content and the optimism, and go out and show some love to someone. But then, of course, there's financial support, because the light's got to stay on. And so if it's within your means to do so, and you like what we're doing here, I would like you to consider becoming a contributing member of the Evolutionary, which would give you access to all of the after party recordings that we have ever done and ever will do, and any other cool exclusive content that we decide to post there. And you can do that at the evolutionary.life. That's right, .life, because .com is so last season. That's the evolutionary.life. And if you would like to get notified of any shows coming up, all of the shows coming up, you can go to any page on the evolutionary.life and scroll to the bottom and fill out the details for get notified. Also, when it comes to the Good News and Fresh Perspective section, I would like to crowdsource some information from you. So anything that you come across that you find in your daily life and your information surfing, that is a fresh perspective on humanity, that shows some optimism for the prospects of humanity, whether it's some sort of invention or some sort of philosophy. DM me at Instagram at The Evolutionary Life. Upcoming broadcasts, we have Dina Justice, coach extraordinaire, my good friend Tiffany Baker, who is a phenomenal artist and death doula and wisdom purveyor, Jaden Hawkinson, who is deep in the Santo Daime tradition, as well as a doctor of natural medicine, practicing currently in Sedona. And then I want to say to you all, finally, that the course, Metz's course, is called Being and Becoming, and you can read about it at metzaseries.com. And we have a link that we will put into the show notes where you can go and get a 5% discount if you're interested in doing that. And let's see. What else do you got? You got anything else before we jump? No? Okay. I'm going to just throw a comment in here. Oh, someone already did it, right? There it is. Link to Metz's online experience. Being and Becoming. All right. So with that, I will say goodbye, and we're going to end this live stream for now, and we'll see you in 30 seconds over on the Zoom call. The Zoom call did require you to register for it and have a link, and hopefully you did that. And if so, we're going to see you there in just a moment. Bye-bye, everyone.